If you know the slow motion flaws of the Lumix S1II, you can easily create shots like these. But I had to make a lot of tests and comparison shots with my Sony A7S III to find out what these flaws are and how to fix them. So I started comparing how motion looks like on both cameras with 120 frames per second in 4K. Sony is always on the left and Lumix always on the right. First I couldn't find major differences and I still think both look good, sharp, and the motion is fluid. Just out of curiosity I filmed a slowly spinning drill and a faster spinning drill as well, both look very fluid. But then I flicked the plant with my finger and I noticed the first difference. I hope you can even see the difference here on YouTube. I zoom in 400% to make it visible. The Sony image has no noise or grain at all, whereas the Lumix footage has. Sony looks much more processed. It adds noise reduction in camera, what in my opinion makes it look a bit more artificial. The Lumix footage has more structure in the background, it has more raw character. By adding noise reduction to the Lumix footage, you can get the same look out of it, but to be honest, I like the unprocessed look more. Next, I tested if the rolling shutter is a problem on each of these cameras. I started this highly scientific test, and as you can see in slow motion, both sticks stay pretty much straight, or maybe bend a bit. But I moved closer to the camera to fill a bigger part of the frame, and the Lumix was just as good as the Sony, so the readout speed of the sensor should not be a problem in slow motion on both cameras. But in my tests I saw something else. In my dark jacket was a significant amount of noise in the shadows. Way too much to say it looked good like in the flower footage before. And why is the Lumix so noisy in the shadows? And does it only affect slow motion or all frame rates? I exposed both cameras equally at 42 IRE for middle gray, and as you can see the Lumix has significantly more noise in the dark parts than the Sony. Then I overexposed the Lumix by one stop and turned it down in post-production. The noise got less. I overexposed by 2 stops and the noise was similar to the Sony now. So that's important to know. Always overexpose the Lumix by 1 or 2 stops when you have dark areas in your slow motion shots. And as you can see, that helped a lot with the jacket. But how much exactly do we need to overexpose to get a clean shot? To check this, I filmed my color checkerboard and again I exposed to middle gray at 42 IRE. I zoomed in 180% to see the grain a bit better. Let's zoom into even 400% because YouTube compresses so badly, you should see we have a lot more noise on the right, so on the Lumix. Then I overexposed both shots and brought them down in post, and as you can see the noise now looks almost the same as on the Sony camera. And to double check in the studio what we've seen before, I underexposed both cameras by 1 stop. And we see the horrible results on the Lumix and the quite good ones on the Sony. And when I underexpose 2 stops, I don't even have to zoom in because it's horrible on the Lumix. The Sony still holds up pretty well, to be honest. But now the big question, do we only need to overexpose in slow motion or in all frame rates? Let's try this with 24 FPS. With normal exposure, both cameras look very similar in terms of noise. I would not see a reason to overexpose here a lot. Let's do it anyways, just to make sure. And no, nothing really gets much better here, so normal exposure would be quite fine. But are we screwed when we underexpose? Not really, it looks quite good. And even at 2 stops underexposure, the image doesn't fall apart. So in normal frame rates, the image is not noisy in the shadows at all, even in this pitch black situation here. Here we have a scene that's a bit brighter and again, very clean. Now back to 120 FPS. I wanted to test if there is a difference in image quality when I compare the all-intra mode of the Sony with the long GOP compression mode of the Lumix. I compared both 4K shots and at first I would say, no, both are equal. But if you really start pixel peeping, you see a difference. I zoomed in 400% and yes, nobody would ever do that, but there you can see these trails on the Lumix where the nose moves. A few frames later, the whole trail is gone. And I'm pretty sure this is because of the long GOP compression, which works by encoding only some frames as full images, the I-frames, while the other frames only store differences to the neighbor frames. There are P-frames that contain differences to the previous frame, and there are B-frames that contain the differences to both the previous and future frames. Now by combining I, P and B frames, long GOP achieves much smaller files than all-intra. Again, this problem only occurred in 4K 120 FPS and you can kind of easily fix it by applying a little bit of noise reduction. And it doesn't appear in all cases. Here, where we have a different background, we do not have this problem at all. Last but not least, and yes, you can see that I'm already tired, I wanted to test the autofocus performance in 120 frames per second. Long story short, both looked very good. I had eye autofocus activated in both cameras and the eyes were tracked perfectly. We can see though that the Lumix is a bit sharper, even though it is in 4K as well and not in 6K, which I've recognized in all the shots before as well. But with a bit of post-sharpening in the Sony, they almost look the same. To sum it up, at 120 frames per second, the A7S III has more internal noise reduction and therefore cleaner shadows, shows no artifacts, and you don't need to overexpose. The Lumix, on the other hand, has a more natural image, is generally a bit sharper and has more details, but sometimes you get small artifacts and you need to overexpose by one stop. And if you have any of these cameras, you are already a lucky person. Don't buy any new one, but I know that doesn't work. We're in the same boat, guys. See you.